So the first time that I met John Campbell it was in the summer, and a good friend of mine had just come back from a summer camp, and he had learned a little bit about volleyball from a coach named Steve Manuel up in Kelowna. And so my friend was trying to explain to me what pepper was. And so we were in a field with a volleyball, and he was trying to explain what this whole pepper game was. And John Campbell happened to be walking by and see two kids out in the field playing with a volleyball. And he came over. We were still in grade 7, or going into grade 7, and he invited us to come up and play on the grade 8 team at the high school.
Playing for John Campbell, and some of the stuff you only know when you look back on it, but playing for John Campbell taught one thing, and that's how to be a winner, and knowing that the fundamentals of the game were more important than anything else, and your attitude and what you did on the floor and how you presented yourself. It was magic what he allowed us to absorb without ever telling us what to absorb. He just led by example with everything that we accomplished.
John Campbell practice really didn't have a lot of variation. The first start of practice was always the same stuff. It was always working just on the core fundamentals of our sport, but he did it in a way that was really fun. So the drills were really enjoyable, they were really fun, things were positive, and he was really good at he would stop the drills and he would highlight players that were doing it well, that were really, and it wasn't pointing out all the negativities and pointing out all the, the athletes that were struggling. He would always try and highlight the positives. And so that was, from a coaching perspective, that was one of the core pieces that really stuck with me, is that fundamentals didn't need to be boring, and didn't need to be mundane. They could be a lot of fun. And then really try and highlight the athletes that are succeeding, and especially those that maybe aren't the ones that always do succeed, or maybe they aren't the ones that do get all the recognition in the games, they don't get all the big kills, but in practice really highlight those athletes that are working hard and are growing and continuing to get better.
It would almost become emotional to think of the things that he actually presented that we picked up and used, and you can ask people like Hall of Fame member Keith Gallicano what he meant to Keith's career as well too. But I think it's just the principles of knowing that you have to do the basics, and you have to do the basics and the fundamentals well in anything in life. And he's had a few different careers, and John will go and cut shakes for a living if he has to cut shakes for a living. There's nothing he wouldn't do to start at the bottom. And if you ever got stuck in a forest, you would know he's the guy that wakes up in the morning and goes and gets the water out of the creek. It's the fundamentals, it's the basics that we learned.
I remember one time we were running a practice, and he was running practice, and he ended up jumping in on defense, and he was playing defense, and one of the guys on our team went up and hit the ball pretty hard. It actually caught him in the face, and it cut his glasses, and it cut his nose, and immediately we were all so worried, and we go running over to him, and is everything okay? His glasses are broken, and then they're on the ground, and I can remember blood's pouring from his eyes, and he just kind of looks up at the guy that hit him. He says, "That was a great shot. That was a great," and it was, again, just always being positive, even when he's bleeding from the face. His impact has been on me throughout my entire coaching career. I have definitely grown and developed as a coach, and I find myself, with age, I feel like I'm getting more and more like John Campbell, and less as maybe a hot-headed, highly competitive young coach that I started out as, and I feel like I'm kind of calming down as my career continues to grow, and to me that's a phenomenal role model to try and be more like. So if I can keep moving more towards being like John Campbell, I think I'm heading in the right direction.
So John, on behalf of all of us that grew up under your tutelage, I want to say thank you, and we are all so proud of you in this incredibly deserving honor in the induction of the Class of 28 Volleyball BC's Hall of Fame. Thank you for everything.
John, congratulations on this incredible honor. I couldn't think of a more deserving coach to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I personally want to thank you so much for what you've done, not only for myself and the fact that I'm now a volleyball coach is largely in part due to the influence that you had on me, but also the impact and influence that you had on so many other kids from Revelstoke. And a lot of my friends have nothing to do with the sport, but I know they would all be so proud and would understand how deserving you are of this recognition. So thank you and congratulations.
I had lots of help over the years, and two people I want to mention. One was a librarian at Revelstoke Secondary School, and he's here tonight, Bill Husband, and he, in all my years, he was always there to help me and keep me organized and help me drive teams all over BC and Alberta constantly. Another person at the secondary school was a phys ed teacher, Ron Patchett, and he had a very good program for volleyball for the girls, and a couple of his players are here tonight. And he was always there to help me. Whenever I needed somebody else, I could always go to Ron, and he would help either with driving or with coaching. Unfortunately, at a fairly early age, he developed Alzheimer's, and about 10 years ago, he succumbed to complications of that disease. So he's not here this evening, but his wife is here, Anna, and Ron's here in spirit. They said I had 5 minutes. One night a few weeks ago, I got up in the middle of the night because I was wondering what on earth I was going to say. And I wrote a bunch of stuff down, and then I looked at the clock, and I sort of went through my speech, and it was 25 minutes long. So I threw that one away. And it was very hard for me to say, what can I possibly do in 5 minutes to include everything that I wanted to do? And I thought of White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. And he had to go before the emperor. And he went to the emperor and he said, I just have so much to say. I just don't know where to start. And the wise emperor said to him, a very good place to start is at the beginning and continue on till you get to the end and then stop. So I thought, that's a good suggestion. I'm going to try and do that. So here's the beginning. In our paper in Revelstoke a couple months ago, there was an article on glimpses of the past. And one of them was from 50 years ago. That's a half a century. November 23rd, 1967. The Revelstoke High School boys senior volleyball team came back from Winfield, where they won the Okanagan Valley Championship. Then they put a picture of the team in there. And I looked at the picture and I said, yes, that's the team. And it's the senior boys volleyball team. There was only one senior boy on the team, and that was David Meehan. All the rest were in grade 10, so they were juniors. And there was Mike Cummings and Morris Hewlett and John Manson and Ken Olenek. And that year we went on to play in the provincial tournament at Mission, and we got to play in the final game against Mission. It was a wonderful tournament. It was so much fun. We ended up second to Mission, but it was just a great game. But the following year at the BC finals at Simon Fraser University, we again met Mission in the final game, and in that year, we won our first of 7 consecutive BC championships. What is his name? Just a second. No? Okay. Oh, Yogi Berra. And he was famous for his one-liners. He said, I knew the record would hold until it was broken. Well, that record has held now for 43 years. And I doubt... I doubt that I will live long enough to see that it is broken. We went through many athletes in that 8-year span, and I'm just going to quickly list some of them, and many of you will recognize the names. Keith Gallicano, who was inducted last year, Rick Devlin, who's here this evening, Ray Ewing, who came down from Edmonton to be here. There's Jerry Story, Gary Warner, Chris Jenkins. John Marquardt happened to drop into Revelstoke for his grade 12 year from Kitimat, and he came down just so they could play for our team for 1 year. David Kepler, who's here this evening. And David would have to thank the person who set him so consistently, Les Husband, who is here this evening. Then there was John Ireland and Gary Olenek and Bill King, and they would have to thank their setters, Jack Warner and Brett Bradstock. And my task in all those years was to make sure that they had good, sound fundamentals. I also had to make sure that they were physically fit and had endurance, and that they were mentally tough, because those were the attributes that were necessary to produce a championship team. At the end of the 7 years, I took time away from coaching for a few years and went into administration for a bit, and then eventually returned to the classroom where I was supposed to be, and my 7:30 in the morning volleyball practices. But I only coached the grade 8 boys, and I never again went to competitively coach at the senior level. But I did get an opportunity to interact with people like Kerry McDonald, who's now coaching for UBC, Nick Fuse, who this organization has honored him for his contribution to reffing, Sanjeev Jazra and Scott Devlin, Scott's here this evening, Sanjeev's here, who led Revelstoke to their 8th provincial championship in about 2003 or 2004. I'm now 75 years old, and I'm trying to go gently into old age. I certainly will take with me the memory of tonight into my twilight years. And for those people responsible for passing this honor on to me this evening, I humbly say to you, thank you very, very much. And now, like White Rabbit, I've come to the end so I can stop. But I would certainly like to thank all of the people, and there are a whole bunch of them from Revelstoke, who came down to enjoy this evening with me tonight. Thank you.